So thank you all for coming to highlights of our year in poetry and poetics on campus. I would like to, just before I launch into a brief introduction of our readers tonight, thank some of the people who made this possible. Many groups on campus came together with great excitement to invite Coral Bracho and Eliot Weinberger here today. The Katz Center for Mexican Studies, the Center for Latin American Studies, the Department of Romance, Languages, and Literatures, the English Department, the program in Poetry and Poetics. These are just a way of registering how many people are interested in following the work of the two people who are reading here tonight. Entra el lenguaje begins a poem by Coral Bracho from the 1998 volume La Voluntad del Ámbar. In an English language selection of her work, published by New Directions in 2008, Forrest Gander aptly translates the poem's opening as language enters, registering the sense of philosophical depth, eroticized encounter, and lyric stagecraft that inform all of Bracho's work. Yet, one grammatical mood may hide another, in English as in Spanish, and the poem's opening, Entra el lenguaje, may also be read as a command to enter the language. In a sense, every poem begins with this imperative. Let us go then, you and I, invites us on some level to enter the language. Verde que te quiero verde, enter the language. Kongshan Bujian Ren, enter the language. Leaf through any poetry anthology, and you'll find yourself entering language again and again, because poems, by virtue of their brevity, if nothing else, begin and end one after another at a dizzying pace throughout history, shuttling us across the threshold of language at a rate ordinary experience might not otherwise allow. The line, Entra el lenguaje, remains itself, whether we translate it as language enters or enter the language, or in some other way. Yet we can never enter the same translation twice, because, as Eliot Weinberger observes, translation is movement, the twin of metaphor, which means to move from one place to another. Metaphor makes the familiar strange. Translation makes the strange familiar. Translation is change. Even the most concrete and limited form of translation, writes Weinberger, even the most concrete and limited form of translation, currency exchange, is in a state of hourly flux. Translation under Weinberg, yeah, you did. It was great. I loved it. Translation under Weinberger's account shares a logic of exchange with both poetics and political economy. A merchant exchanges currency, and a poet trades the familiar for the strange. Though he's often read as a translator, an editor, or an essayist, it might be more appropriate to view Weinberger as a poet, concerned with modes of exchange on a global, even planetary scale. His work, like the transatlantic modernists of the prior century, or like Coral Bracho's today, opens new routes for cultural exchange, political discourse, and historical understanding. After making its entrance, Bracho's poem goes on to offer us language for thinking through the parallel enterprise of poets and translators alike. Los dos se acercan a los mismos objetos, los tocan del mismo modo, los apilan igual, dejan e ignoran las mismas cosas. The two approach the same objects. They touch them the same way. They stack them up equally, They let drop and ignore the same things. We're about to hear the work of two writers who approach the same objects: photographs, species, histories, embodiment. They touch them the same way, with curiosity, reverence, and wonder. They stack them up equally, ethically, rigorously, equitably. They let drop and ignore the same things: intolerance, ignorance, indifference. Through their art, they illuminate how everyone enters language and how it, in turn, enters us. Todos entran al cuarto. Todos lo observan. Everyone enters the room. Everyone takes it in. Please join me in welcoming Eliot Weinberger and Coral Bracho to the University of Chicago.
Ooh, thanks, Chico. I forgot that I said that. I'm really honored to be at the here at U Chicago, my favorite university. I always wish that I had come here as a student instead of being a hippie dropout. But I mean, I know it's where fun comes to die, but fun is really overrated. So. And I'm very honored to be the opening act for Coral Bracho, one of my favorite poets in the world and one of my favorite people in the universe. So I thought I would read a few things that have to do with Mexico, wonder why, and as a sort of homage to her. The first is about the Lacandons, who are a culture that lives in Chiapas in the south of Mexico, and they were never conquered by the Spanish, and so they consider themselves the full-blooded descendants of the Mayas. It's about their dreams. Lacandons. In the forest of Chiapas, in thatched huts without walls, in hammocks barely rocking, they sleep. There it is said, if you dream of a donkey, there will be a strong wind. If you dream of tacos, you will see an anteater. If you dream of an anteater, people are coming. If you dream of a termite, you will see a jaguar. If you dream of a jaguar, people are coming. If the jaguar bites you, they are not people. If you dream you are waking, you'll be frightened in the forest. If you dream of a mirror, you will see white stones. If you dream of your tongue, beware. All birds mean fever, all fish mean pain in your stomach. If you dream you're worrying about the cost of things, you'll not have to worry about the cost of things. If you dream of a party, for a long time you'll be bored. A gourd is a jaguar's head, the old canoe an alligator. If you dream of a house, you will see a wild boar. If you dream of a beard, you will see a wild boar. If you dream of a broom, you will see a wild boar. If you dream of a radio, you will see a wild boar. If you dream of a poet, someone will cry. A shotgun is the tooth of an animal. Beans are maggots, and maggots are beans. If you dream you are writing, you'll be bitten by a snake. If you dream of a lake, it is nothing. If you dream of a frog, it is nothing. If you dream of a flower, it is nothing. If you dream of heaven, it is nothing. If you dream of leaves, it is nothing. But if the leaves are shaking in the wind, grasshoppers will eat the corn. If you dream of fog, people are coming who are sad and ill. If you dream you know something, you do not know it. If you dream of a halo around the moon, the end of the world is coming. That which is thin in a dream will be thick. That which is certain in a dream won't happen. People think that I just kind of use found text and I kind of cut and paste, but it's actually not what I do. I use found information so that I don't invent anything, but they're all things that are either true or somebody thinks they're true, and then I rewrite it and and rewrite the sentences. Read something else that comes out of Mexico. Lately I've been writing about mountains of the world, and having done a lot of essays about rivers of the world, I'm moving on in my atlas. And so this is, I'll read you a few of these. There's a bunch of them. It's just called Mountains. And the first one's Mexico. The mountain seems to be there, but the mountain is not what it seems. For the mountain is not solid, made of dirt and rock, but is a hollow shell filled with water. When you are asleep, your spirit leaves your body and goes wandering. Your dreams are the home movies of those travels. When you are asleep, you can enter the mountain and talk to the water people. Human infants who die before baptism become water people, or humans who die struck by lightning, or from the rain diseases of tainted water. The water people themselves have many children. There are more of them than humans. They are not gods or supernatural beings, but people with names and ages and personalities. They speak the same language as we do, work and dress as we do, live as long or as short. But, like your spirit who visits them, they have no bodies. Their food is the same as our food, but what they eat is the smell of fresh fruit, or roasting corn, or the steam rising from simmering beans, or the smoke from grilling meat. Evanescence is solid, aroma nourishing. In the dream you can see their villages and cities, their apartment buildings and houses with patios. Awake, these are the rocks and boulders in the rushing streams that come down from inside the mountain and on the banks and slopes. The streams are their highways. The irrigation canals that branch off are their streets. In the dream, you'll see that the boulders have tiny doors. Japan. In the old days, the ones who sleep on the mountain had as their ultimate devotional practice abandoning the body, suicide. This was banned by the authorities and replaced by a rite called gazing into the valley. Germany, 1826. My room in the tavern had a fine view of the mountain. Yet that night, something strange occurred. I was not asleep and dreaming. I was awake, staring idly from my bed at the moonlight that half lit the meager furnishings. As the bells from the two churches in the village tolled midnight, an old friend of mine, long dead, suddenly appeared standing before me. He was a doctor with whom I had once had passionate debates. He arguing for the primacy of reason, and I for the imagination. He was wearing his old gray coat, leaning unsteadily on his Malacca cane. He told me not to be afraid, that he was not a ghost, that he was merely a trick of my imagination. He cited Part 2, Section 1, Chapter 3 of Kant's Critique of Pure Reason as proof that ghosts do not exist. He repeated again, as he often did, that, quote, reason is the highest principle. Then he reached into the pocket of his vest to look at his gold watch and pulled out a handful of worms. Iceland. He and one of his farmhands became lost in a snowstorm. Night was falling. They found a cave on the side of the mountain and took shelter at the entrance, reluctant to go further inside, and sat on two rocks. They heard something moving toward them from within the cave, and then, in the darkness, they saw two enormous eyes and nothing else, shining like two moons or two shields. It was a giant, and it began to recite a strange poem of 12 stanzas in a terrifying voice. One stanza went, "Dim cliffs break apart, tongues of flame blaze even faster. Out of the ground, a weird new clay begins to flow. The heavens split and crack open, the giants come to life. Twilight rushes from the torrents, till the world is extinguished, till the world is extinguished." The giant repeated the entire poem two more times, then vanished back into the cave. It was dawn, the snow had stopped, the men hurried away. On their way home a few days later, they looked for the cave but could not find it. He remembered the entire poem, but the farmhand could not recall a single word. 1 year later, to the day, his farmhand died. But he himself lived a long and prosperous life, and nothing else unusual ever happened to him. Venezuela, 1897. A flat plateau above sheer cliffs. The top of the mountain is rarely seen through the clouds. The people there have a drug that allows them to live for thousands of years, but most become bored and listless and, after a few centuries, stop taking it. India. According to the laws of rhetoric, a smile is white. Therefore, a snow-capped mountain is laughing at you. So then I gather that a class is reading this book, Elemental Things, so I thought I would read something from it. This is about the stars, and it's about what many cultures have thought about the stars, what they are, what they're made from, where they come from, and then how they have named the stars, and then, of course, the patterns they see in the sky and how they name those. And Coral just told me she's translated this into Spanish, so we'll have to see. It's come out in lots of languages. Well, it was originally published in this book by Museum of Modern Art with translations into Chinese, Japanese, Hindi, Arabic, and Maori. The stars, what are they? They are chunks of ice reflecting the sun. They are lights afloat on the waters beyond the transparent dome. They are nails nailed to the sky. They are holes in the great curtain between us and the sea of light. They are holes in the hard shell that protects us from the inferno beyond. They are the daughters of the sun. They are the messengers of the gods. They are shaped like wheels and are condensations of air with flames roaring through the spaces between the spokes. They sit in little chairs. They are strewn across the sky. They run errands for lovers. They are composed of atoms that fall through the void and entangle with one another. They are the souls of dead babies turned into flowers in the sky. They are birds whose feathers are on fire. They impregnate the mothers of great men. They are the shining concentrations of spirit breath made from the residues left over from the creation of the sun and moon. They portend war, death, famine, plague, good and bad harvests, the birth of kings. They regulate the prices of salt and fish. They are the seeds of all the creatures on earth. They are the flock of the moon, scattered across the sky like sheep in a meadow, and she leads them to pasture. They are spheres of crystal, and their movement creates a music in the sky. They are fixed, and we are moving. We are fixed, and they are moving. They are the seal hunters who have lost their way. They are the footprints of Vishnu striding across the sky. They are the lights of the palaces where the spirits live. They are of different sizes. They are funeral candles, and to dream of them is to dream of death. They are the ostrich hunters, out all night, and at dawn they huddle near the sun to get warm, which is why you cannot see them. Dew and frost fall from the stars. Winds warm and cold come from the stars. Stars fall from heaven into a maiden's lap. They are the embers of the fire of creation. They never change. They are the white tents where the star people live. They are the countless eyes of Varuna, who rides across the sky on Makara, who is half bird and half crocodile, or half antelope and half fish. They are the eyes of Thiasse, flung into the sky by Thor. They are the white ants in the anthill, built around the motionless Durba, who meditates for eternity deep in the forest. They are a kind of celestial cheese churned into light. They simply are. The stars are an enormous garden, and if we do not live long enough to witness their germination, blooming, foliage, fecundity, fading, withering, and corruption, there are so many specimens that every stage is before our view. We and all the stars we see are just one atom in an infinite ensemble, a cosmic archipelago. The sky is like a millstone turning, with the stars like ants walking on it in the opposite direction. The sky is like the canopy of a carriage, with the stars strung like beads across it. The sky is a solid orb, and the stars the perpetual illumination of the volcanoes upon it. The sky is solid lapis lazuli, flecked with pyrite, which are the stars. Each star has a name and a secret name. The only word we hear from them is their light. Men will never compass in their conceptions the whole of the stars. Under a starry sky on a clear night, the hidden power of knowing speaks a language with no name. Goodness and love flow down from them. They have no chance or random element, no erratic or pointless movement. Evil and misfortune flow down from them. Their existence is improbable. Their infinitude propels us to count them. Their wondrous regularity is beyond belief and proof of the divine intelligence that resides within them. The eternal silence of those infinite spaces is frightening. The more the universe seems comprehensible, the more it also seems pointless. All stars move and shine in order to be most fully what they are. Light gives light because it is its nature. Acquaintance with the stars is essential to an understanding of the poets. If the star did not radiate light, they would explode. Souls after death inhabit the stars. The blaze of a new star might therefore indicate that the soul of a great man or woman had reached its destination. The only explanation why there are so many stars we cannot see is that the Lord created them for other creatures further out to admire at a nearer distance. We are the center of the material universe, but at the perimeter of the spiritual universe, and we are doomed to watch the spectacle of the celestial dance from afar. Unlike the other animals, man was made to stand erect so that he could gaze at the stars. King Arthur is up there, waiting for his return to rule England again. Quay is there, the brilliant scholar born with a hideous face. Up there is the manger, the mist, the little cloud, the beehive. Look, the Tower of Babel and the felicity of tents. Up there are highway robbers and doves bringing ambrosia to the gods and the twin horsemen of the dawn. Up there the daughter of the wind, mourning for her husband lost at sea. The strong river is there, and the palace of the 5 emperors, the kennel of the barking dogs, the straw's road, the bird's way, the snake river of sparkling dust. Up there are the nymphs who mourn their brother Hyas, killed by a wild boar, and whose tears are shooting stars. There are the 7 Portuguese towers, the boiling sea, the place where one bows down. Look, the ostriches leaving and the ostriches returning, and the 2 ostriches who are friends. Cassiopeia, queen of Ethiopia, who thought she was more beautiful than the Nereids, is there, and her hapless daughter Andromeda, and Perseus, who rescued her with the head of Medusa swinging from his belt, and the monster Cetus he slew, and the winged horse Pegasus he rode. There is the bull who plows the furrow of heaven, Up there is the hand stained with henna, the lake of fullness, the empty bridge, the Egyptian X. Up there is the butcher's shop, the easy chair, the broken platter, the rotten melon, the light of heaven. Hans the wagoner who gave Jesus a ride is there, and the lion who fell from the moon in the form of a meteor. Up there, once a year, 10,000 magpies form a bridge so that the weaving girl can cross the river of light to meet the ox-herding boy. There are the braids of Queen Berenice, who sacrificed her hair to assure her husband's safety. Up there is a ship that never reaches safe harbor, and the whisperer, the weeping one, the illuminator of the great city, and look, the general of the wind. The Emperor Mu Huang and his charioteer Cao Fu, who went in search of the peaches of the Western paradise, are there. The beautiful Callisto, doomed by Juno's jealousy, and the goddess Marici, who drives her chariot led by wild boars through the sky. There are the sea-goat, the Danish elephant, the long blue cloud-eating shark, and the white-boned snake. Up there is Theodosius turned into a star, and the head of John the Baptist turned into a star, and Li Po's breath, a star his poems make brighter. There are the two gates, one through which the souls descend when they are ready to enter human bodies, and the other through which they rise at death. There a puma springs on its prey, and a yellow dragon climbs the steps of heaven. Up there is the literary woman, the Phrygian maiden, the moist daughters, and the head of the woman in chains. There is the thirsty camel, the camel striving to get to pasture, and the camel pasturing freely. There the crown of thorns, or the crown that Bacchus gave Ariadne as a wedding gift. Look, the horse's navel, the lion's liver, the balls of the bear. There is Roni, the red deer, so beautiful that the moon, though he had 27 wives, loved her alone. Up there, the announcer of invasion on the border, the child of the waters, the pile of bricks, the exaltation of piled-up corpses, the excessively minute, the dry lake, the sack of coals, the three guardians of the heir apparent, the tower of wonders, the overturned chair. Up there is a cloud of dust kicked up by a buffalo, and the steamy breath of the elephant that lies in the waters that surround the earth, and the muddy water churned by a turtle swimming across the sky. Up there is the broken circle that is a chipped dish, or a boomerang, or the opening of the cave where the great bear sleeps. There is the star of 1,000 colors, the land of justice, the plain and even way. There is the double-double, there the roadside inn, there the state umbrella, there the shepherd's hut, there the vulture. Look, the winnowing fan, there the growing small, there the court of God, there the quail's fire, there St. Peter's ship and the star of the sea. There, look, up there, the stars. So I'm going to end with two short things. I thought as a, for the crescendo effect, building up to Coral, I would read two of her predecessors from Mexican poetry, who I happen to have translated like a long time ago. The first is Javier Villarrutia, which is Villaurrutia, who's a poet from the 1930s. And he basically wrote one book of poetry called Nostalgia for Death. And then after that, he mainly wrote plays, kind of drawing room comedies and things, which I think aren't very good. I've never read them, but anyway, this is a great book, Nostalgia for Death. And he was one of the only openly homoerotic poets of the 1930s. He was good friends with Langston Hughes, and if you've read John Keane's wonderful book of short stories, Counter Narratives, he has a story where he imagines this love affair between Villarrutia and Langston Hughes, but it's not known if they were actually lovers, but they were friends. And all the poems, or almost all the poems in Nostalgia for Death, are nocturnes. And this one's called Nocturne, the Bedroom. Death always takes the shape of our bedroom. It is concave and dark, silent and warm. It gathers in the curtains where the shadows take shelter. It is hard in the mirror and icy and tense, deep in the pillows, white in the sheets. We both know that death takes the shape of our bedroom, and that in our bedroom there's a cold space that erects a wall, a crystal, a silence between us. Then only I know that death is the hollow you leave in our bed when suddenly, for no reason, you sit up or you stand. And it is the crackling of burning leaves your bare feet makes across the rug. And it is the sweat that wets our thighs that lock and struggle and then surrender. And it is the sentence you interrupt and let drop. And my question you don't hear, you don't understand, you don't answer. And the silence that falls and entombs you as I watch over your sleep and wonder. And I, only I know, that death is the choked words, the strange groans, and the obscure involuntary movements you make when you wrestle the angel of sleep in your sleep. Death is all this and more that encircles us and brings us together, pulls us apart, and finally leaves us confused, startled, hanging with a wound that doesn't bleed. Then, only then, both of us alone know that it is not love, but darkening death that makes us look face and face in each other's eyes and reach and come together, more than alone and stranded, still more, each time more, even still. And then the final poem is by the poet of the major Mexican poet of the next generation after Villarrutia, is obviously Octavio Paz. Then we skip a generation, then we get to Coral. As one listens to the rain. Listen to me as one listens to the rain, not attentive, not distracted, light footsteps, thin drizzle, water that is air, air that is time. The day is still leaving, the night has yet to arrive. Figurations of mist at the turn of the corner, figurations of time at the bend in this pause. Listen to me as one listens to the rain without listening. Hear what I say with eyes open inward, asleep with all five senses awake. It's raining, light footsteps, a murmur of syllables, air and water, words with no weight. What we were and are, the days and years, this moment, weightless time and heavy sorrow. Listen to me as one listens to the rain. Wet asphalt is shining, steam rises and walks away. Night unfolds and looks at me. You are you and your body of steam, you and your face of night, you and your hair unhurried lightning. You cross the street and enter my forehead, footsteps of water across my eyes. Listen to me as one listens to the rain, the asphalt's shining. You cross the street. It is the mist wandering in the night. It is the night asleep in your bed. It is the surge of waves in your breath. Your fingers of water dampen my forehead. Your fingers of flame burn my eyes. Your fingers of air open eyelids of time, a spring of visions and resurrections. Listen to me as one listens to the rain. The years go by, the moments return. Do you hear your footsteps in the next room? Not here, not there. You hear them in another time that is now. Listen to the footsteps of time, inventor of places with no weight, no where. Listen to the rain running over the terrace. The night is now more night in the grove. Lightning has nestled among the leaves, a restless garden adrift. Go in, your shadow covers this page. Thanks.